All right, welcome. I thought we were going to have just a closed session, but it looks like we do have one item. So before that, we will do public participation, and that means the public is welcome to come up to the podium and
Supervisor have because this is
good. All right. So scrap that, and we will go directly to our first and only agenda item on the open agenda. And Heather, if you will please read that.
Consideration of approving an agreement with Nathan I. Nutting and Tracy Smith for temporary indigent misdemeanor defense services in an amount not to exceed $80,000 for fiscal year 23-24 and $210,000 for fiscal year 24-25.
Thank you.
Supervisor Half. I will start out.
I don't know if your thing is on.
Thank
you.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll start at this item. I want to make sure that the board and anyone who is here in the audience or who are listening have some background on the Public Defender's Office and what we have been. Long term, we had 4 attorneys in the Public Defender's Office. We have 4 in Conflict Counsel. As you are aware, in January, 2 in Conflict, 4 in Public Defender. In January, Hallie Campbell able to fill that position, and then unfortunately, then in June 30th, one of our long-term attorneys he did not retire. He just decided to go to resign, and he's in private. July, we have had 2 applications. That's it. Not that people are applying and we're interviewing, they're not taking it. We have had 2 applications. Then we had defender resign. So as of today, we have 1 attorney in our Public Defender's Office. I have been staying in contact with Judge Siebert. He is aware from the very moment that I found that out that day. And then your Public Defender, Scott Gross, and I met with him on Wednesday so we could give him an update of where we're at. Constitutional right that we are providing to those who are in need, and of course we take that seriously. Right now, with 1 attorney, we cannot meet those needs, and we need to do something. So we put out an RFQ, which is continuously open, and what that is for anyone who's qualified, they first submit that they're qualified. As you saw, it's the 2 attorneys are Smith and Nutting. They will take over our caseload. What you're seeing in there is 2 different things. We'd like you to sign an 18-month contract that takes us through December of 24. I believe that's correct. And that take from this, but I do need your board to understand we are still looking for individuals to assist with our felony caseload. It is likely that there's a possibility we may need to potentially recommend attorneys is simply more expensive than it is for our in-house attorneys. So we're doing everything that we can. We do have a few attorneys that we're working with. But as Judge Siebert had indicated, and Scott Gross, our public defender, we simply don't have the number of private attorneys doing criminal defense that we once had, say, 10 years ago. And the ones that we are looking at contracting with, Judge Siebert shared his concern, those are the same ones that they tend to appoint to. So we are doing everything we can to be creative, to figure out a way to pull more attorneys into our area. But in the meantime, we are doing everything we can to meet the need right now. And that's why you have this urgent item on for today. They are able to start on the 30th, is my understanding. So I do want Mark to walk you through the details of the contract so that you understand what those are and what those costs are. And then we are asking that your board would approve that contract. You don't need a budget modification today, and even when we come forward with a felony, what I'd like to do, a felony contract, is wait until mid-year. He has plenty of appropriations, but for those of you, you've been working with budget, we may have additional revenues or maybe savings in other cost centers that we are able to pull in, not pull from contingencies, and fund these in the meantime until we can get there. So if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those. And we do have someone here representing the attorney firm, and Mark will go over the terms of the contract.
Good morning. So, forgive me, it is not even 9 yet. So, if your board were to approve the contract today, the first portion of it would be a $50,000 retainer fee, essentially, for them to retain some additional administrative staff and some additional counsel for themselves to cover their existing caseload, and then $20,000 for them to take on the December portion of this year's misdemeanor calendar. And then for the second half of this fiscal year, it would be an additional $210,000 to cover until the end of June, and then $210,000 to cover from July 1st to December 31st. Again, this is to cover only the misdemeanor calendar, and so we will have to come up with some other kind of solution to cover the felonies.
Wow.
And can you provide the number of cases that are open right now, just so the board knows what those statistics are like?
Yes, so when I last checked with the public defender, there was 251 open misdemeanor cases that Nutting & Smith will take on as soon as this contract is approved.
And the public defenders also provided, we tend to get about 1,000 of those per year. So those are the numbers you have for misdemeanors that the attorneys are handling that are then essentially once the district attorney files, the ones where they don't have an attorney or can't afford one goes to our public defender.
So are you open to questions about this at this point? I do have one. Why are we not taking any felonies on at this time for those two individuals, or why are they not taking them on?
This was the public defender's way of going about doing this. The misdemeanors are taking on the misdemeanors now gives him the availability to free up part of his calendar so that he can focus on the more serious felony cases, and it gives us a little bit more time to find other attorneys with which we can contract to cover the felonies.
So my next question would be, is there any flexibility if the public defender finds himself kind of underwater in engaging these two individuals, these two attorneys, with possibly some felonies into the next year, or has that been discussed?
So just to be clear, the response that we received from the attorneys was only for misdemeanors.
Only for
They did not respond that they had interest in felonies. Doesn't mean that they won't. They do have their own caseload that they're going to be closing up, and those are some pretty high-level cases, a couple of those.
Right.
I'm not going to say, and you do have someone here if you, but
Okay.
I'm not going to say that they would never take those on, but that's not what the proposal was. It was to do the misdemeanor caseload, which is quite extensive.
Right.
And we're hoping that within the very near future, we will have one, if not more, for felony caseload.
Okay, thank you. Other supervisors' questions? Supervisor Brandon.
Thank you. Might be a question, might be more of a comment, but just as we're looking to try and bring in more, I mean, since this is a limited pool just within the community, it's not just a hiring issue, being able to understand more about what are we doing, what steps are we taking to try and address that long term after this contract, so we don't end up back in December and kind of have that issue. So I don't know if there are any specific plans besides kind of normal recruitment, that, hopefully we'll have somebody come in within that period before this contract expires.
So Supervisor Brandon, thank you. I didn't go into that. So just a couple things. Our, when I say our office, Leah and Mark did cold calls for over 24 law firms everywhere from Stanislaus, Stockton, San Joaquin counties, Turlock, Oakdale, just asking anyone if they were available. We had one from Merced who came up last week. Otherwise, everyone told us no for a variety of reasons. I am actually currently updating the salary survey because we simply don't have the luxury of waiting 6 to 8 months for the compensation study that we just did, just to see how far behind we are to our neighbors. But overall, what we are hearing from our counterparts from my counterparts, and Sarah can speak to, or Chris for public defenders, is there are simply not, attorneys aren't going into the public sector like they once did. And the availability of attorneys is very slim. So we are not just looking local, is what I want to make sure your board knows. We went as far as, I think that the person who came in was from Merced, but we went down to Stockton, anywhere where someone could commute up here. We, meaning Leah and Mark, did the cold calls, letting them know where we are. Are they interested at all in contracting with us? And only one said yes. The rest of us gave a variety of reasons of why they did not want to come up here.
Thank you. Supervisor Campbell?
Oh, thank you, Chair, and thank you very much, Tracy. Hold on. I've been silenced again. Okay. All right, and thank you, Mark, also for that presentation. Just reading through the contract, I just want to be clear about the timeline we're talking about here. So it's November through December next year, right? Okay, because I wasn't clear if we were talking about fiscal year, or we're actually talking the remainder of the time period that we need, basically.
I broke it down into fiscal years just because of budget, but yes,
Gotcha.
It is for about 13 months.
Okay. And then there's an opportunity to extend that into 2024?
It goes through December of 24
Or,
at
I'm
that
sorry,
point.
2025?
Possibly, we would be
Okay.
working with the attorney firm if it's still needed. Remember, because these are employee positions, we do have a group that is represented. We are working with that group. They are expecting that we are doing everything we can to recruit these positions.
Okay. And is that going to cover all of the misdemeanors or just certain ones within a time period?
My understanding is it should cover all misdemeanor caseload up until that time.
They will be taking on the entirety of the misdemeanor caseload.
Okay. And so how many attorneys do we have in the public defender's office right now?
You have one.
Okay, and that's the
The
public
public
defender?
defender.
Okay. And you've kind of touched on this already, so apologize if I'm asking you the same question again, but what are our prospects to filling some of those vacancies there? Is that just not going to happen? Is this, are we looking at other options here? What does the future hold for our capacity to hire people? Because, while we are having a net cost savings in that department, it's not going to be a savings overall, because if we're spending money on the contract and then we have to hire additional people, this is going to be on top of that.
Yeah, so contract attorneys always cost more than our employees,
Right.
significantly more. So at the end, there won't be a savings. We do from salary, but the cost for the contract is significantly more. So as I had said, I'm doing a salary survey of those who are surrounding us to see how we can compete. Are we that much lower? The other one is we are reaching out to law firms about the legal law clerk, I believe it's called. So that's essentially someone that has passed the bar, but while they're waiting, they can come in and work. So district attorney has done it. We're going to then be implementing that in our public defender's office. In the last 6 months since June 30th, when we've been trying to recruit, it also includes, I believe it's $12,000 hiring bonus on top of the salary, and people are simply not applying.
Still.
Tells me one of two things, and I think it's both. our compensation is simply too low and it's not enough to attract, but it's also that there's just not enough of them out there. So getting them up into these rural areas proves to be more difficult.
Yeah, and that's been what I've been hearing as well. That was the other question I had is that I know that we're not the only county going through this, but what are other counties facing, and is there a way we can work with them on a strategy to address this? Because this is something all rural counties, not just in California, but in the country, are dealing with, that people are just not wanting to become public defenders anymore because it's a high caseload, low pay, it's a difficult job. And I don't know what the answer is to address that, but are you working with any of our partners in other counties to see what they're doing, if there's
Yes.
some ideas we can beg, borrow, and steal to address our situation?
Yes, both our office and your public defender and county counsel, Chris Schmidt, has been working very closely with us. We are all talking to our counterparts to see what they're doing. I will tell you, this is just a statewide issue of not having enough, kind of like we saw with clinicians when not having enough of those. There are simply not enough attorneys going into the public sector. We're doing everything we can, even looking at, are there other options for partnering? But I need the board to understand, because these are employee positions, we also have a little bit different requirements on how we go about working through this, because we have to go through the meet and confer with the attorney group.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll go to the public to see if there are any public comments, and if so, please come up to the podium. Good morning.
I'm a deputy district attorney. I'm a part of the Attorney Association that comprises both deputy district attorneys and deputy public defenders. Ms. Christie is our representative, and she's in trial, so she asked me to come and speak. I don't know where the miscommunication was, but there was never a meet and confer offered to our association. We were provided an email on October 27th that there was going to be a contract on November 7th in front of the board. We were waiting. We unanimously, between the deputy public defenders and the deputy DAs, unanimously objected to the contract, but we were waiting to see exactly what all the defined details were before we submitted our comments to the board. On November 1st, Ms. Christie followed up with the county, and we're saying, we need to see it before we can give you our comments. We were told that it was pulled from November 7th and it would be in December. On late Wednesday afternoon, around 4:30, 5 o'clock, I got a text from Ms. Christie saying, oh, apparently there's going to be a special meeting, and it says that we meet and conferred and we approved of it. I don't think there was, I don't know where the miscommunication happened. So the Attorney Association does object to the contract. We understand the position that the Public Defender's Office is in. This is a constitutional crisis. And things need to happen to make sure that people are represented appropriately. We have some issues with the contract. First is the price. It's really, really high. There doesn't seem to be any cap on the private cases each of the attorneys are allowed to take. Historically, the misdemeanors have been represented by one attorney from the Public Defender's Office. Now we have two individuals who are coming in who are being paid more than anybody in the Attorney Association would be paid. And one of those attorneys has a month-long murder case that he's going to start in January. So there is concern about, I know that there was this issue of closing up, they're going to close up some cases, but they've already been paid for those cases, so why is the county then paying more when they've already been paid for those cases that they could use to farm out if they needed to? So we're really concerned about where the contract is going and the price of it, and I don't envy your position because it is a really hard position because it is a constitutional crisis.
Thank you. Ms. Carrillo, do you have any comments?
My only comment, I don't know whether or not a meet and confer happened because I wasn't involved in that process.
Okay.
And when we are contracting out work that employees do, that is part of the process. So I'm not sure what happened there, and I know our HR director just walked out, so she probably has more comments. What I will say is that the county has a mandate to provide this service, and there's one attorney cannot fulfill the role of 4. And that also means that the attorney may be breaching their own ethical responsibilities if they don't have coverage. And so this is, as Ms. Novelli pointed out, this is a crisis. And Ms. Riggs may have some comments on the meet and confer process. But at this point, the county is going to be liable if we don't take action to enter into a contract to provide these mandated services.
Thank you. And Ms. Riggs?
Yeah, so I don't get involved directly in the meet and confer. What was brought to me was that there was a conversation that took place. The question that came back to me was, how long do we expect that this would take place? And I said, until such time as we could recruit and fill the positions. That's the extent of my knowledge. Unfortunately, Deb and Karen are not in here. So I know there was some back and forth. I don't know how much or for how long, but that is my understanding, and the fact that we simply don't have a choice here. I mean, while there's meet and confer, it's not meet and approve, and we did our best there, but we do have an obligation to fulfill the constitutional mandates here that we're given by the state and the federal constitution.
Okay, thank you. I'll go back to the public just to make sure if there's any other comment that you have time to come forward. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for final comments, and then I'll entertain a motion. Supervisor Brandon.
Thank you. I did have a question on that since we do have other items today. Seems that there may have been a miscommunication. Is it possible to be able to put a tab in this while we conduct our other business, be able to have that conversation happen and see if that's able to come back with something? I know that's not officially part of the meet and confer process, but.
The only concern with that would be is in order for them to start November 30th, we've got to give them as much time as possible. And in all honesty, nothing is going to change here other than now they've seen the contract, they know what it is, but it is not a meet and approve, it is a meet and confer, which we did let them know where we were, what the status was, but we have to meet this mandate. We don't have a choice. So nothing will change, I guess, is my point. We will definitely circle back to see where that miscommunication took place because, and it could be the difference between what does meet and confer mean as opposed to meet and approve and that kind of stuff. This is a meet and confer where we essentially notify, answer questions. There's not any other choice here but to get contractors on immediately. So that's my concern there.
And Supervisor Brandon, one other point that I think sometimes gets lost in the nuance when you look at Government Code Section 31,000 about contracting out is the county is always allowed to contract out for extra help. And so that is essentially what is happening because the recruitment for the attorneys in that office is still ongoing. And so I think sometimes people misunderstand like fully contracting out permanently the services, which is probably a much bigger meet and confer process versus like, hey, we need some extra help, and so we're going to do this temporarily. And that's really the position that the county is in from a legal position.
Thank you. And to clarify my question or on that would be to basically do that today. Certainly there's not a time restriction so strict that several hours would, cause harm into it. To be able to at least have that opportunity if they feel there was a miscommunication, have a discussion about it. It wasn't to say at all that we don't need to have a public defender's office working on contract, if that's the only option we have.
Yeah, I just would like your board to know that your HR director will be in the interviews with us that we are conducting this morning. So that would then push it off until this afternoon, just so you're aware.
Yeah, I would just ask what would you be looking for from that, from taking that time, an agreement from the attorney group? Because correct me if I'm wrong, we can't really change the contract at this point. So it would just, and if we discuss with the attorney bargaining group, I understand their position very well. We're talking about hiring an attorney under contract that would be paid more than one of the attorneys of their group. And I don't see a scenario where they're going to agree with that. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't want.
We would have to open up public comment again. Hold on just a minute.
I believe she is a representative of the contractors, the providers, so you might want to hear from her.
Do that, okay. All right,
I'd be
I'm
fine
gonna
with
go, I'm gonna go ahead, if it's all right with you, Supervisor Campbell, and open up public comment again, and please come forward.
My name is Mary Smith, and I am here today representing Nathan Nutting and Charles Smith. Nathan is on a long-scheduled out-of-town vacation for the holiday, and Charles is currently in court. So I'm actually the person who wrote the RFQ for the firm. As far as the compensation goes, I want to address that on the surface, it looks like a tremendous amount of money. But as a business, we are absorbing a lot of the costs involved that the public defenders and that the district attorneys themselves are not responsible for. The county pays those. So the rent, we need to hire more employees. We have to pay investigators. We cover more under the contract than we do under privately retained cases. So if you were to come to us privately with a misdemeanor, it's a flat fee that covers from when they take the case, when the attorneys take the case until the case finishes, unless it goes to trial. Trials cost more. Privately retained clients pay their own investigator fees, they pay their own expert fees, and there is an additional fee if there's a probation violation. All of that is rolled in. We're looking at taking on a current caseload of over 200 cases, and that includes all the costs associated with that, including investigator fees. And so again, while on the surface it looks like a tremendous amount of money, it's not anywhere near what we would make privately. And in fact, it really, if you, it really works out to about $40 an hour when you consider the average amount of time. The average misdemeanor case takes 10 hours. That includes staff time, that includes attorney time. It's pretty well split in half, about 2.5 to 3 hours of actual physical court time. So when you work that down, and I believe it's addressed in the memo, but they have the wrong number of time listed, it works to about $40 an hour, a little bit less, which is slightly more than our administrative staff makes, significantly less than what the attorney would charge per hour. So I really wanted to address that because I do get that to the other attorneys and especially to the public, it looks like a money grab. It's not. It's not at all. So, and I'm happy to answer any other questions you guys might have about that, so.
Thanks for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Any other public comments since we still have that window open? Okay, I'll close it again. Supervisor, well, hold on just a minute. Any other comments? Are you finished with yours?
Yeah, I was just, and thank you for that. I was making more or less the point that we can't change the contract now. We don't have any other contracts available, right? We don't have any other options. And I don't see our own attorney group agreeing with it either way, because they're there to advocate for their members, and this is not serving their membership. So I just don't see that we have a whole lot of choice here.
Thank you. Supervisor Goldenberg.
Thank you. Admittedly, yeah, we've got a serious crisis right now. We also have a crisis in figuring out how to better recruit and fill these positions. But that's not going to happen today. I think we just need to move on this and get these temporary positions, onboarded so that they can get to work.
Thank you. Supervisor Brandon.
Right. And to Supervisor Campbell's point, and that was a good point brought up by our CAO on our staffing for our other items as well, obviously. Looking at under professional services agreement, and this is not really what was submitted to us as the contract, and I don't think anybody's saying that we don't need that contract. There is basically a note talking about how the bargaining process went with meet and confer. It sounds like there's a disagreement. I would request that we would make that accurate. As it is right now, it says, it said, oh, of course, they're not going to support that because that, and understanding the field of it, the county engaged in the meet and confer process with the Attorney Association bargaining representative who understood the emergency and did not object to contracting out for indigent defense services temporarily. Now, that's not what I heard from the representative. So that seems inaccurate, and I don't want us to make that inaccurate. So I would like it to be something that they would agree is what happened, even if at the end they say, this is not a contract we would support. That would address it.
My comments are, I'm very appreciative of the last public comment. Thank you for that. That helps. Also knowing that this is not a this was not a meet and agree. We're not going to get agreement. It was not ever set up to be an agreement, just to let them know, basically, is my understanding. So I have no reservations moving forward. We have an emergency. We have to address it.
Yeah, I take that point really well. Supervisor Brandon's point about that. There was communication with the bargaining group prior to this. And is that what we're calling the meet and confer process, or?
Beginning.
That is my understanding. I also want to make sure that we don't give contracts to our bargaining units when we tell them we need to go out and contract, like we didn't do it when we needed licensed clinicians. We just let them know that we have the need to go out to the private sector to add on additional work while we recruit. We do not give them the contracts for review because it's outside their scope to review and approve our contracts. But we do let them know that we are at a point where we do need to seek additional outside workforce, and that's what the conversation is. Now, whether or not our memo, it does say it was agreed. It was our understanding that we had met the meet and confer. Maybe the word should be that we did at least notify the attorney group that this was something we needed to do, but we would have never given them a copy of the contract to review and approve, as we don't do that. I just want to make sure your board is aware. And we could change the final document to refer that we did reach out to the attorney group. We can change that we did reach an agreement, just that we did reach out to the attorney group and let them know of the need to begin contracting. And I'm happy to make that change in the final document that gets posted to our memo, if that helps.
I think that would work.
That would help me, because I think Supervisor Brandon has a good point that
No, I agree.
if we're saying we're meeting and conferring and we're not exactly doing that, and correct me if this is a poor analogy here, but I think about all of the contracts we do for road work. We are constantly hiring outside groups to perform work that potentially could be performed by in-house road crew, but we're not going to OE3 every time we do that for approval, because it's necessary to do that, and it's quite regular and ordinary to hire outside contractors to do that work. So that's the way. Is that a fair comparison, or no?
That's quite a fair
I'm trying
comparison
to
because
put
of the
things
public
together.
contract code and what we're
This is a
limited to
unique
do with
situation
in-house.
anyway,
Well,
so.
I can give you a similar example. We use outside counsel for various matters, right? We have water counsel or special employment counsel or litigation counsel, and the unit my attorneys are in, executive and confidential, they don't get notified of every contract we enter into because we understand it's extra help. The county's allowed to bring on that service when it needs it. Again, it's temporary, it's not long-term. So legally, the county is allowed to do that.
All right, at this point, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd be willing to make the motion to approve an agreement with Nathan Nutting and Charles Smith, temporary indigent misdemeanor service, defense services in the amount not to exceed $490,000, $280 for fiscal year 23-24, and $210 for fiscal year 24-25, with the addition that under the professional services agreement section, we would have a statement of fact in that section that I mentioned that would be agreeable to that unit, or at least offer that opportunity.
You mean we would change the wording in the memo to reflect that the units were notified?
Yeah, if it's not meet and confer and it's going to notification, as that was
Right.
mentioned, or at least not saying that they don't object to it. Is
We
that,
will work with HR, and find out exactly what took place, and then we will change the memo accordingly, that we did begin the meet and confer process by notifying them of the need. That's, I don't know what happened in between, and believe me, I will find out. But we will definitely change our memo for the final document that Heather will upload, so it will reflect not that there was agreement, but that there was a meet and confer process that took place, and that the attorney group was notified of the emergent need.
great, so
And if-
that,
Thank you for that.
If that's the motion, I'll second that, because that was my main issue, is that if it says they agreed to it and they didn't, that has to change. That's
All
my main
right,
issue.
so we
So I'll
have a
second.
motion by Supervisor Brandon and a second by Supervisor Campbell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries 4-0-0. Thank you, everybody. All right, and now we have a closed session appointment, and Heather, if you'll please read that. Hey.
8 a.m. closed session, public employee appointment, Authority Government Code Section 54957B1, Health and Human Services Agency Director.
And before we go into closed session, just ask if there's any public comment. Seeing none, bring it back. And Sarah Carrillo, do we expect to have any report out from this session?
No, not today.
All right, thank you very much, and we will convene into closed session now. Are we gonna